How's it going, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well today. So I was just thinking about technology and the direction we're going with it, and I say we loosely. You know, humanity, the tech billionaires, things like that. And I was just thinking, like, do we have to go that direction? You know, are there other options? Is there ever another option? You know, in other words, like, can we have high technology without centralization, without loss of privacy, and all of the things that go along with it? So far, you know, AI, the whole AI race, and AI is just like coming out of nowhere, basically, and just taking over essentially the technology field. And it pulls from the internet, it pulls from all of our data, all of our information to make itself possible. And then it requires these huge, huge data centers to process all of the information. So this is going to be a whole different direction, right? Well, I'm not anti-technology. I'd love to see a real lightsaber, you know, for example, right? But I just wonder, is there another way? Is there a different direction? Or does technology always go in the direction of loss of privacy? Is it possible? I mean, to mention Star Wars again, I guess, the droids in Star Wars are not centralized all the time. They have communications with private communications, I guess, with their owner or whatever military they're connected to. But they're not centralized. Like, in other words, because if they were, the Empire would just be able to hack into all the droids and just know where the enemy was, right? Like, or wherever, you know. When in the original trilogy, for example, you know, they would be able to just hack R2-D2 and they would always know where Luke Skywalker was. You know what I'm saying? So if it was centralized like that, you know, I think about it, I'm like, not against, say, a robot, for example. We have all these humanoid robots coming up. There's a ton of them. And the weird thing about them is they're connected to a centralized source, the company or whatever. And they don't work so well, right? So right now, there's one that I'm thinking about in particular. Maybe we'll talk about this further, but this isn't the topic of this video. But they basically, they don't work so well, right? So you could pay more and the company will have like another human on the other end control the robot to do the chores around your house. But then they have like access to, you know, the cameras inside your house 24/7 and access to the robot, right? It's interesting. So it's not like really autonomous in the things that it's doing, and it's definitely not decentralized. And so I just think of another type of technology. It's like, well, robots wouldn't be so bad if they were locally programmed and locally trained and, you know, kind of did their thing, and it wasn't something where the company could hack into the back end of the robot and, you know, make it do whatever, you get what I'm saying, software updates, things like that. I feel the same way about electric vehicles. So like an electric car, to me, in my mind, an electric car that works is, you know, it's a motor, a battery array, and then a system of controls that makes the motor work the way you want it to, and, you know, monitoring all the things. You can do all that without having it being hooked to the internet, without having it being hooked to a dealership, right? Technically and theoretically, this can be built, but none of the EVs that we've seen being built have been built that way. That kind of just gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. And this is something that can be, you know, easily fixed, and it can be maintenanced. You know, if you understand how it's built, you can maintenance it. And, you know, there could be a certain degree of software, but it's like, it has to be something, in my opinion, I like the idea of most of it just going through, you know, standard controls, just as analog as it could possibly be, and it'd still be an electric vehicle, right? And you could do digital controls for it. You know, there's a way to do this that doesn't require you to be attached to that dealership. That's kind of what I'm saying. And so I kind of think like, do we need more technology? Do we need more centralization? All this AI stuff. And I know people will say, well, if we don't do it, China will do it. China, and then we'll be behind. And it's like, okay, behind what? Like, where are we going, guys? Where are we going with this? We've already talked about the digital IDs. We've talked about, and we've seen some of the implementation, starting to come together in other countries and things like that. It's kind of scary stuff, right? It's total control of the population is really where it goes. It's not like, okay, you're gonna have a droid like Star Wars that follows you around and does all the stuff and helps you out and helps translate and helps do all these things and work on your car, basically. It'd be cool to have a droid that could fix my car, that could help, that could tap into the car and fix things, in the software or whatever. That'd be cool. But the thing is if you ever get that, it's going to be controlled by a dealership remotely, and then the government will then have access to the information that the dealer has access to. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like another level of control. It's like we listen to everything you say. The droid can hear your voice and then go and do, what you ask it to do. But the dealer can hear the voice, and the government can also get access to that as well. And then, this all this is like a whole nother thing. Same with the flock cameras and everything. That's AI aggregated information. So it can be searched. It's a searchable database. Yeah, law enforcement can probably use that to solve crimes, but we've seen it be abused also, right? That wasn't, stalking an ex-girlfriend is not solving a crime, right? Like, anyway, selling data to other companies or falsely accusing people, right, of things, maybe for personal reasons. So this is just, I'm thinking along these lines. I'm like, could technology be different? Does it have to be centralized? Can we build like a parallel situation where we're using the tech, right? But just perfecting what already exists. Training, you could still train models locally on certain data sets, right? You could get an encyclopedia and train a AI model on that encyclopedia to answer questions for you and aggregate that information, but not pulling things from the internet so that it becomes this reflection of our state of being as humans, right? Like all the imperfections too, because the internet's full of garbage, of course, and bad information. And so the thing about these AI programs and chatbots, things like that, a lot of the information that they're aggregating is like bad information. It's getting thrown into the mix. See, they're wrong a lot. I don't use AI ever. The only contact that I come in contact with AI is like the little Google AI overview. And I know that's not like real AI, but that AI overview in Google is wrong a lot of the times. Like I've discovered that it's quite incorrect and quite often. And that's concerning to me, because it's like how many people are looking at that and that's their just the picture that they get, the thing they look up, they look at the AI overview, they're taking that information and then they go and put that into implementation somewhere in the world, but it's incorrect. So then that has a knock-on effect, right? And we were talking about the other day, I was with somebody, I was like, they were talking about training AI agents. And I was like, well, how long is it until the AI agents are training the AI agents, or these AI models are training on flawed models to begin with? And so you have a repeating issue down the line. How bad can it get? It can get kind of crazy, right? So anyway, does it ever correct itself? I don't know. What source material are we looking at here to make these things happen? You know what I mean? So I don't know. Let me know what you think. Is there a way to kind of use information and use technology that isn't centralized? That's is there something that is there a company that's doing this? Is there somebody out there kind of thinking along these lines also? Like, you'd like an electric car, but you don't want it to be controlled by the dealership. You like a robot, but you don't want it to be controlled by the company that makes the robot. Like you have to actually become kind of tech savvy to do this, I guess. You have to understand how it works so that you can work on it for yourself. Maybe this is the thing. It's the convenience. It's the perceived safety of using a mass-produced product that's costing us the privacy, and it's costing us, being able to program these things for what we want them to do and nothing else, right? And then not like tattletaling on everybody, to the government or whatever, or to the company, telling everybody's business essentially, because there's no privacy, right? Because you have this thing with cameras in your house. You have this Alexa, right? Amazon Alexa or whatever that's listening to everything. And then you ask it a question, it gives you the answer, but the answer is really kind of program. It's like the answer that you're supposed to get, you know what I mean? The official narrative type answer or whatever it is, right? Like, is there a way, to, because I don't, like I said, I don't use AI right now. I would potentially use an AI type of tool if it was really just an aggregated information set of data sets that are tried and true data sets, like a Merriam-Webster dictionary, an encyclopedia, whatever. And yes, I know that has to always be evolving and constantly be updated, but maybe you can update it with the proper data sets, right? Instead of just this broad spectrum capture. Or maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. And, some of these things do this, but I think that it's up to the company that produces it where the information is coming from. And so this is kind of what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, let me know what you think about this. Am I way off? I'm just wargaming here. I'm just kind of thinking about things in a different way, and I think it's important because we're going in this direction full steam ahead, and I don't know if we need to. We have a lot of good technology already. We have stuff that we need to live very good lives, and I think we're going over that, point in time, and then going into something different now. And this is like where it gets dystopian. I think maybe is kind of where it gets the dark side of the technology, right? Not just the life-saving stuff. They'll continue to come up with life-saving technology, but I think they're going to continue packaging the safety and the convenience and the ease of access and the fact that you don't know what the heck you're doing, fixing this or that, so we'll do it for you, but we're going to also have to have access to the back end of the product, all of that kind of thing, because it's happening with cars, it's happening with and if you look up like right to repair, obviously the dealerships don't want you to have right to repair. It just makes financial sense for you to have to go to the dealer or replace the product, right? Whatever it is, whether it's a washing machine or a car or a phone or a computer or a robot, right? Or whatever because these things are, it's going to be a thing. I mean, in 10 years, there's going to be a lot of robots probably if it keeps going the way it is. Now, the question is, how are those going to be designed? And what does this mean for our future? So I'm just asking questions here, just kind of throwing some ideas out there of the way I'm thinking of this. Could there be a different way that technology can progress, or does it have to go the direction that we're going? But then people are going to have to really learn a lot more. The people who are technically able to do it are going to have to be also willing to take that risk and maybe start a company and start building these things in this way. And then you have government regulations. With the electric car is probably the person who builds the electric car that I was just talking about is going to be faced with a lot of hurdles when it comes to regulations from the government. And they're going to say, well, you can't do this because it needs this safety feature. It needs this, it needs that. It has to have these cameras. It has to have access to the internet or whatever it is. I think that's an issue as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'd love to hear potential solutions. Are there companies that are doing this? Does it cost an arm and a leg though? Or could we just go back to are a lot of people going to be able to just not partake in this technology and just go back and live in a cabin, burn firewood for heat? Is that going to get outlawed too? There's just a lot of questions as to where we're going with this thing. But like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. I guess that's my thoughts for the day, and that's the video for the day. I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out.